That was awesome. Great playing, super creative. In a second, I want to cut to some of the interview that I did with Butch. We talked about a lot of things that I think you guys are going to be interested in. Everything from practicing, how to improve, how to get ready for sessions and touring, what life is like on the road, how to survive during a pandemic. A lot of great advice for you guys. So I did a whole interview. I'm going to share a little bit of that in this video. And this is in a series, so look for the other parts of this series with Butch Norton. And there'll be a little bit of that interview along with some playing examples. So we'll get to that in a second. For those of you who want a little bit more, you can also look for the Deconstruction Setup with Butch Norton tour, where Butch talks about all the components of the setup. Look for that video. And then for those of you who want even more, you can go to patreon.com/Kalani, or if you're a member, you have access to the descriptive video that we did where he kind of gives you a whole tour of all the sticks and mallets that he's using. So if you're curious about all the other stuff that's over on the right side of his setup, he talks about all that stuff. That's at patreon.com. You can also see the entire interview uncut at patreon.com/Kalani, and all of Butch's performance musical segments or vignettes at Patreon as well. All right. So coming up in a second, part of the interview with Butch. Go to butchdrums.com to check him out. And thanks for stopping by World Drum Club. As always, subscribe, like, hit the bell for notifications. And I'll see you in future videos. Here's some of the interview, and enjoy. Butch Norton. Butch, thanks for stopping by.
Kalani, you're welcome. My pleasure to be here in the World Drum Club.
I can't believe we got your setup into this tiny studio, but you did it. You are professional.
Thank you. Thank you. You gave me the parameters the other day, and so I got out my measuring tape, and I went crazy for about probably 7 or 8. No, I didn't.
Yeah. So, tell me about, because this is an awesome setup. I loved hearing what you did. Well, I'm going to talk a little bit more about the music in a minute, but let's just go with, where do you use this setup?
Mostly percussion stuff. I've used bits and pieces of it in the studio on recordings. This type of instrument comes out of creativity, and so it usually aligns with more creative things. My dual personality, of course, is the rock and roll pop recording world, where I play traps, drum set. That was my foundation. That's where it came from. But then when I came to CalArts in 1980, I stopped playing the kit for about 4 years and started soaking in all this percussion and world stuff. And then the genesis of the drum set became apparent to me that it started here with this percussion.
Yeah.
So how I just started creating and inventing my idea of this thing, the ConTRAPtion kit.
Yeah, nice. And you've got drums from all over. West Africa, Afro-Cuban, Middle Eastern, coffee shops, washing machine, so you have the whole thing covered. I love that you are using some of the unique sounds like damaged, repurposed items and also damaged items. It's just a good lesson for everybody that every sound is a valid sound.
Every sound is valid. Don't throw it away. It angers the crap out of my wife, Mrs. Butch, yep, because the collection is ever expanding and growing. But it is a sound, and it's usable, it's viable, and repurposed stuff. I'm very much about that.
And I think it's a great thing now with, at least, now and always, but especially now when people are at home more, to be able to look around your home and not feel like you have to go out and buy instruments, but to look around and do a sound safari, a sound hunt. Go around your own house, your property, into those cupboards and cabinets and the garage corner that you haven't been digging through in the last 10 years, and pull out things and look for those sounds. Talk to me a little bit more about some of the sonic choices that you made when you put this together, if there were any, or if it was just, like, what are your considerations when putting together a kit like this?
Putting together, for me, it starts with the bass foundation. So on this kit in particular, it doesn't always have to be this way, but I wanted a pseudo bass drum sound. The wood box has that, covers that kind of a sound. A hi-hat sound that's not a hi-hat. That's me kicking the washing machine. Then I have an auxiliary hi-hat over here for fun. And then the ethnic hand drums, skin drums, I want those tones. And I listen for tones. I want high pitches, I want metal, I want wood, I want skin, I want crunch, I want earth, I want sky, I want water. All of those things come into play when I'm putting this together. Sometimes I'll just use, depending on if I am recording with something, maybe it's one or two pieces, depending what I hear, what I think it should feel like.
Right, so that's a good distinction. You're doing solos today, solo work, so you've got the whole range, like you said, low to high, dark to bright, dry to wet, if you will, or that, crunchy to smooth, all those timbres and pitches. I want to ask you a little bit about, now this is a big topic, so we could go on and on, but about your compositional process. Now this is all improvised, right? You're improvising all this music, is that right?
Well, over here I have a monitor and I've written it. No, this is completely improvised in the moment.
Yeah.
That and that is, for me, that is the genesis and the purpose of this, to create on. I have this set up in my Butch bunker in my studio.
Yep.
I have 2 drum sets set up, and every other day, every couple days, I'll come in and just sit down for 20 minutes and see what I come up with. That's an exercise I have. No preconceived ideas. What just comes out of the moment and what I'm feeling. Hands, fingers, different mallets, different sticks shaking, dropping things on stuff, sounds. I'm listening, and then I'm composing. I'm recording all of this. I am recording on my little camcorder so I can see, and then I turn off the monitor and I listen to see if it affects me orally. Because sometimes there's a disconnect for me when I watch something.
Right.
Sometimes I'm not hearing, I'm watching, and vice versa.
Right. You just made some great points. I love that you're making the recordings. I've suggested that people do that too.
All the time.
Because you can't take it all in when you're doing it. Right? You can't. It's too many things are happening. I don't want to pretend to know what your process is or what you're thinking, but I do want to say that what I perceived and noticed when you start to play, let's call it a little piece or a vignette, it was very apparent to me that there was a theme, and that you weren't doing everything every time. Every time you'd pick up a set of sticks or whatever. Now this is my perception, and you can take it from here, but I want to impress upon people that might be watching this that it's not about playing everything every time you play. It's what I saw is that you would start to play, you immediately establish a rhythm, a groove, a meter, a feel, a vibe, and then you worked within that, and that you had some thematic ideas, and whether it's a ping, or a bup, or whatever there was an anchor throughout. Can you talk a little bit about that idea of, thematic improvisation?
Yes. I have no idea what... No. It's you picked it up immediately. I was never... When I started playing drums, talking about what you talked about a minute ago, it was in the house, on the pots and pans, on the suitcases. Listening, hearing sounds, trying to replicate. I didn't know what I was doing. And I would come up with simple patterns, and I would lock in on a simple pattern. When I started studying drum set, everything was about learning all the licks and the chops. I was never good at that. With I have always gravitated towards simple melodies, simple patterns, locking into that. When I went and studied African music and all the different cultures, and like I said, I stopped playing kit for a while, it was apparent to me for 3 months, I sat on the gonkogi bell, and I was not allowed to move. And goon, 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 ga, ga, goon, 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 ga, ga, and you play that part over, and I loved that. Locking into one pattern, focusing on that. And then I took that and started just, okay, yeah, if I'm going to compose something, improvise something, start with a pattern. Find the melody in it, the musicality in it. Maybe go off and add a lick here or there, but then come back to it. Use dynamics. Use the range of musicality within it. And don't do 1,000 licks. How is that musical? You know, and there's a place for that.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to create a feeling, an atmosphere, maybe a groove, a feeling. If I can't feel it, or if it doesn't move me, if there isn't a sentiment attached to it, then it's, you know, as I'm listening back, I'm like, that's no good. That idea. So doing these, recording these for many years, I've gotten quicker at being able to do it immediately, creating something, and that helps in the studio when I'm making parts for songs.
Right.
This last record I did with Lucinda Williams, Good Souls, Better Angels, we went in for 7 days, no click, heard the song that afternoon, and then, you know, the producer said, I don't want a lot of cymbals, so it was very tribal, and how quickly can I get to that point of coming up with a part?
Yeah.
You know, making it sound like I've been doing this.
Right.
It's all, you know, it's sitting in here in my studio, experimenting, practicing, making many mistakes, and listening back to what I was doing.
And that speaks to the skill.